Hi friends! Today we're talking all about summer book recommendations, and I thought it would be kind of fun to switch it up a little and recommend books based on the type of vacation you're headed on. So I have three different categories. The first one is if you are headed towards like a beach vacation, you're probably looking for something a little bit more restful and relaxing, maybe even some escapism. The second category I have is if you're headed for more like a mountain vacation, so maybe you want something a bit cozy, maybe even mysterious and thrillery. And then the third type of vacation book recommendation I have is for cityscapes. If you are headed towards a big city somewhere, you're probably looking for some adventure and maybe a plot that's a little bit faster and a bit go, go, go. So I'm really excited about all of these books here. I've broken them out into categories, so let's jump in with the first one. So the first category of books I have here are books great for the beach, in my opinion. And the first book we're starting with is called All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. I love this book. This is a high adventure set on the sea, and the story is about a girl named Amora Montara, and she is the rightful heir to the throne of this kingdom called Visidia. There's all kinds of magic in this kingdom, but the magic that is owned by the monarch and the royal family is soul magic, and she must master that and prove in a demonstration. But during her demonstration, everything goes wrong and she doesn't prove that she can actually do it. So then she is immediately on the run after that, because if you can't master it, then you essentially get put into the prison and you can't take your seat at the top of the throne. So she goes on the run to try and figure out what happened, and along the way she meets pirates and mermaids and all kinds of stowaways and people of these different towns. Adeline Grace, I've said it before, I'll say it again, is such a great storyteller, and she really has a way of captivating you right from the jump. It's very like adventurous, and it's set at sea, and it'll just help you feel like you're in that beach kind of ocean environment. So I really recommend this one. The next book I have to recommend for the beach type of vacation is called The Girl from the Sea, and this is by Molly Knox Ostertag. And this story is about two girls, the first being Morgan and the second being Kelty. And Morgan is a high schooler on this small town that's by the seaside, and she can't wait to escape this little small town because she has so many secrets she's been harboring, and she feels like she can't really be herself with her friends and family. And one of those secrets is that she actually likes girls. And so one day when she's in the water, she's almost about to drown, but is saved by a girl named Kelty, who begins to hang out with her and starts following her around, and they begin to spend a lot of time together. And as they are spending more time together, Morgan realizes that Kelty also has some secrets of her own. So as the two girls begin to fall in love, they discover these secrets and, you know, the impact of that on their worlds. This story was so sweet. I loved it, and the illustrations are also so beautiful. So I don't read many graphic novels, but I thought this one was definitely worth recommending. The next book I have here is called The 100-Foot Journey by Richard C. Moraes, and this is the story of Hassan and his family, and they are from Mumbai, but they have to leave Mumbai and go to Europe, and so their journey takes them to a number of different cities across Europe, including London, but eventually they settle in France, where they open a restaurant right across the street from a really fancy French restaurant. And from there's like restaurant wars that ensue between the owners of the restaurant across the street and their new little family restaurant, and it's just such a wholesome tale. This is also actually a movie, that's why you see Helen Mirren and some other characters on the front here. I would recommend reading the book first, of course, and then watching the movie, but it's so wholesome. If you like books about food and restaurants, it's quirky, there's some really great characters, there's some like competition and rivalry between these restaurants. It was such an action-packed book, and I loved it. It was great escapism to go into a different world of food and bring light to all your senses, especially smell and taste. So I would highly recommend this one as well. The last two books I have to recommend for the beach type of vacation are by the same author, and that author is Elizabeth Adler, and the books are Sailing to Capri and Meet Me in Venice. These books are more thriller, kind of mystery adventure type of books. She writes really great thrillers, and I haven't seen these anywhere that anyone's talked about them, so I thought it'd be fun to include them here. But these two books are both packed full of adventure and mystery. In this one, you have a rich tycoon that like mysteriously dies, so the investigation team like takes all the suspects and some red herrings into an island called Capri, which is off the coast of Italy, and they're all sent there on like an all expenses paid trip, but little did they know they're actually trying to uncover the murderer. And this story takes them all throughout the Mediterranean in so many different locations, and it really keeps you gripped as to like finding out what actually happened to this guy. And then the second book here is Meet Me in Venice, and this is about Precious, and she lives in Paris. It's the most romantic city in the world, but she's not had much luck with partners until one day she meets this mysterious guy named Bennett who kind of sweeps her off her feet. But her cousin, who lives across the world in Shanghai, actually has some doubts about this guy and invites her to Shanghai to, you know, figure out and tell her what she knows about this mysterious man and why he's come into her life and is so romantic and is kind of the perfect guy. So Precious sets off to Shanghai, where the mystery kind of unfolds further and you realize even more about her cousin as well and all the underdealings of like the antiques world and the black market. Again, very fast-paced, set across a number of different cities in the world. So I thought it was a great beach read because you can just escape into a different world and get caught up in the mystery of it all. So highly recommend these as well. The next set of books I have here to recommend are for if you are headed towards like a mountain type vacation. So maybe you want something a little cozy, a little mysterious even, and thrillery. And the first book I have here is a thriller. It's called He Said, She Said, and this is by Erin Kelly. And this is about Laura and Kit, and the two of them are obsessed with solar eclipses, and they travel the world hunting down these solar eclipses. They study calendars, they know when the next ones are going to be, and they go all over the world to witness these solar eclipses. And on one of their trips, they witness a really heinous crime, and they are witnesses to it, so they tell the police, you know, what happened and what they witnessed. And 15 years later from when that incident happened, they are still kind of living in fear based on their witness testimonies and what they saw, and so they're always kind of on the run. This story is incredible. A really good thriller. It just kind of gets you like that and gets you to flip the pages and just leaves you kind of thinking one thing, but then it's a totally different thing and you suspect everybody. There's not like an obvious kind of solution or obvious what's going on type of feeling. I loved this book. Again, not one that I hear a lot about, so I thought it would be fun to recommend if you're sitting in a cozy kind of mountain escape and you just want to figure out a mystery and get really deep into a book, then this is the perfect one for that. The next book I have here for like a mountain escape type vacation is called The Birthday List by Devney Perry. This is a romance read and it's set in a small town. This book just screams cozy. I love this book so much. It was one of my favorites from last year. And this one is about Poppy and Cole. And Poppy used to be married to a guy named Jamie, who unfortunately is killed at the beginning of the story. That's not a spoiler. It's on the back of the book. And Jamie unfortunately dies before he can fulfill this birthday list. So he's always kept a birthday list of something he's wanted to do every year on his birthday, something new, something adventurous, learn something new, experience something new. And Poppy, after he dies, goes about accomplishing everything on his birthday list. Along the way, she meets this police officer named Cole, and he is just the sweetest male character, and he kind of helps her accomplish all the things on that birthday list. And as they're doing that, of course, they are spending more time together and they are falling in love very slowly, very delicately. And I loved everything about this book. Sit in a little mountain cozy cabin and get yourself lost in this story because it is so sweet and so heartfelt. The secondary characters are also characters that you just want to give a hug to. I just wanted to move to this little mountain town because it just was so sweet. I highly recommend this book. The next book I have here is called Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I'm sure you've heard of this one, but I wanted to give it another moment of glory and recommend it if you are headed towards the mountain somewhere. It's a fun story and it's about this like magical cafe where they have this one seat in the corner where if the person follows a set of rules and they sit in that seat, they can actually transport themselves to a moment back in time and redo that encounter or revisit somebody that maybe they didn't get a chance to talk to all the way or say something different. And the story follows like 4 different smaller stories within that big storyline, and each one kind of develops on the other. It's very whimsical, it's very magical. It's something that I've never read before, so I found it really fascinating. So, you know, go into it kind of blind. I hope that premise sucked you in with the environment of like a coffee shop, a cozy little place, a little bit of a mystery, time travel, all of that. I hope that's enough to suck you in because I don't want to say anything more and ruin the story for you, but I would highly recommend it. It's very interesting and unique, and I've not ever read anything like it before. And then the last book I have here to recommend for your mountain vacation is called Ivy, and this is by Willa Nash. This is of course the pen name that Devney Perry also uses, and I love Devney Perry's writing. That's what that other book was. And so this one is a little bit different to all of her other stories. Her other stories tend to be more small town kind of romances. This one's a little bit different, and this one has so many different characters and so many different plot lines, but essentially it's all surrounded around this university called Aston University, and there are a number of different characters. A lot of them them very rich and very wealthy, and it's all the games that their families kind of play and how they're all intertwined. It's like deception and affairs and lying and twists and turns. So I can't mention just one type of character without really going into the plot, but if you like Gossip Girl, then this is the book for you. This is very Gossip Girl vibes. It's kind of mysterious. You don't know how some family members are linked to others, and there's some reveals that happen along the way. There's couples you're rooting for, but then other couples that are a little bit more toxic than others, kind of like Chuck and Blair in Gossip Girl. So this is very Gossip Girl vibes, but like set on a university campus, not a high school campus like in Gossip Girl. So highly recommend that if you find those types of stories fascinating, with lots of different couples, lots of different families, and the rich and wealthy doing really crazy things. And the last category of books I have here are if you are headed towards like a cityscape type vacation and you want books that are set in the city and have a lot going on and they're kind of a little bit faster paced, then these are the books for that type of vacation. The first one I have here is called Love, Chai, and Other Four-Letter Words. This is by Anika Sharma. This book was so cute. This is a romance novel and it's set right in the heart of Manhattan in New York. I love New York. If you've been here for a few videos, you know some of the last ones were our trip to New York recently, and this one is everything you could want about a city. They go to a number of different places. They visit festivals and street food and the museums, and it's like a really nice tour of New York. But the story is that Karen comes from a really strict background. She's of Indian background, and her older sister had a love marriage, which is what happens when you marry somebody that you choose for yourself and don't go down the arranged marriage path, and that marriage did not work out. So her parents are really skeptical of these types of marriages, so they prefer to arrange the marriage for her. So she's kind of been off limits to love, and she's kind of made up her mind that she wants to be the perfect daughter and not upset them with another child who didn't go down the path that they recommended. And then the other character is Nash, who is a psychologist, and he's just been really burned by his family's history. There's not a lot of great success stories in his family of love, so he's kind of committed to being alone as well. So these two characters are both very against love and very against falling in love, but as fate would have it, they are thrown together because they are indeed neighbors, and they begin to spend time together, and they realize that actually, you know, love might be worth the risk and the battle, and to put your emotions out there and to get your families on board. This is such a wonderful story. There are a lot of cultural references, a lot of like them being from two totally different backgrounds, kind of opposites attract, but also similar in a lot of ways with how they feel about love. I love this. It was so charming. It was so sweet, and I would highly recommend this. The next book I have here is called The Wife Between Us. This is by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, and this is a thriller. This story is about two wives, one seemingly perfect, younger kind of wife, and then the other one is kind of the crazy ex-wife who has been kicked out of the picture and has a lot of resentment. And the story is told in such a fascinating way from both perspectives. And the back of the book says you think you know what's going on and you think you know these wives, but actually you have no idea. And when I read it, I had not a clue, and I was so surprised by the plot twists in this book and exactly what the big reveal was. I think there are two plot twists, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've read it, but I think there was one midway and then maybe one later as well. So it really got me. And once you read a lot of thrillers, if you're a big thriller reader, you know it's hard to like really surprise thriller readers. And I remember when I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that. So for that reason, it was a really good one, really fast paced and really intriguing as well. So highly recommend this one. The next two books I have here are by the same author, and that author is Elle Cosimano, and that is the Finley Donovan series. You might have seen these around. The first one is Finley Donovan is Killing It. The next one is Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead, and there is of course a third one, Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. I'm just waiting for the paperback version to come out of that one next year in January so it can match these two. But this story is about Finley, and she is a divorcee. Her ex-husband is not very nice. She has some kids that she needs to support, and she's struggling as a writer. And so one day she meets with her editor at a Panera Bread, and she's kind of trying to pitch this new idea to her editor about a book about a hitman. And a lady at the table next to them kind of mishears Finley and thinks that Finley is actually a hitman. So she slips her a note to tell her to, you know, I'll pay you if you kill my husband. And so Finley finds herself in this crazy story and plot line with this woman trying to convince her that she's not a hitman, but then she gets really intrigued by their story, so then finds herself kind of caught up in it. It's such a fun, ridiculous story. And there's always two kinds of ridiculous. There's good ridiculous and bad ridiculous. And this is definitely the good kind of ridiculous. It has you laughing. It has you kind of rooting for her. She's kind of like that quirky friend everybody has that's always kind of getting herself into trouble, but you can't help but root for her. And Finley is such a lovable character. So are also the supporting characters. And you know, some of the things that happen in these books is completely bizarre, but because it's so entertaining, you kind of go along with it and it kind of keeps you hooked. So I really enjoyed these and I think you will as well. And then the last set of books I have here is the Crazy Rich Asian series, which is by Kwan. This movie was so popular a couple of years ago. I loved it. I could watch it a million times, and actually I get the craving to watch it every so often, but the books were just as good. They have a little bit more detail than the movie does, so that was fun, but these are just as adventurous, just as fun, and so intriguing to get insight into the rich and wealthy and how they live their lives and exactly what they get up to. It's such a fascinating world. It's set across a number of different cities in the world, and because the other movie hasn't come out, it was really fun to see, you know, what happens in the plot and how it continues and what happens to all of the characters that we got to know in the first story in the movie. So I was really excited to read about what happens. I'm hoping they make that movie very, very soon if they can kind of get over their issues with each other, with production and directors and all that. I think then it would be incredible movies because the first one was such a delight for all the senses, but also from a plot perspective. And so are these books. There's some great cultural references. You learn a lot and it's just a fun plot. Like you just would never like know anybody who has these types of lives. So it was really fun to kind of dive in deep and see what was going on. So highly recommend all three of these books. So these are all the books I have to recommend for this summer. I hope you found something that you found interesting, whether you're going on that type of vacation or not. I just did that for a bit of fun, but of course you can mix and match, and hopefully you liked one of these. Comment down below if you pick up any of them or if you've already read them and really like them. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.